Now, you and I recently had a case where your services were used for a different purpose. Do you recall we had a situation where we were actually seeking to determine whether or not a party's use of a home that was provided by his employer was an economic benefit to him?
That's correct.
And so in that case, your mission was a little different, right?
In that case, what we set out to do was to estimate what the market rental rate would be, what someone would typically expect to lease that property for, as opposed to its market value. So there are cases where we're looking at other values besides market value.
Because in that case, as I recall, once we had that market rental value, as you call it, I was able to argue that that should be added to the regular income salary of that person, and the court should look at the total by imputing the market value as a component of income to that person for purposes of alimony or child support.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, there are different ways of getting values on properties. Some persons will say, well, I have a real estate broker, for instance, who can give me a comparative market analysis. And I hear that term sometimes, and you know what a CMA is.
Yes.
How does that differ from an appraisal?
Well, to start with, to make the distinction between brokers and salespeople and real estate appraisers, each professional provides a different service. A broker, a sales agent, their goal is to put buyers and sellers together to consummate the sale of real estate.
Right.
An appraiser, on the other hand, is viewed as an unbiased, impartial third party that is generally retained to estimate, as I've said, market value. A broker generally works on a commission based upon a percentage of the sale price of the real estate. For obvious reasons, an appraiser can't do that. We wouldn't want to be in a situation where the higher we appraise, the more we were able to get in a fee. So we work on a set fee, and again, we're viewed as being impartial. We don't have any interest in either party, the buyer or the seller, the husband or the wife. Our involvement is strictly with the real estate.
So a comparative market analysis, strictly speaking, and I'll say this from a legal point of view, is not the same as identifying the market value of the property. Is that what you're saying?
What a comparative market analysis does is it provides to the interested parties a range of what homes in their area have sold for. And based upon that, either a salesperson or a broker will say, okay, we think that you should, based upon these 3 or 4 comparables, you should list your house for $400,000. An appraiser has to demonstrate that opinion. We have to get into an analysis of those comparable sales, and they may in fact be the same sales. The difference is we have to demonstrate our opinion.
But ultimately, the comparative market analysis may tell the person what to list the property for, but not necessarily tell them what the market value of that property is, assuming in most cases you list the property for a bit more than you expect to sell it for.
That's correct, and it goes to what I said initially. The broker provides a different service than what a real estate appraiser does. In the properties that I've bought and sold over the years, I've always used a broker or a sales agent. Mm-hmm. And I do have brokers and sales agents that call me and say, Rick, we have a tough one here. Does it make sense if we put this on the market for X, and we'll go do the analysis for them? So again, 2 different talents, 2 different skills, 2 different services.
Right, and that leads to an interesting point, because now you are a licensed appraiser, is that correct?
Yes.
You have a New Jersey license.
Yes.
Okay, and maybe other licenses as well. From a legal point of view, I think it's important for everybody to know that a comparative market analysis of a parcel of real estate is not going to be admissible as evidence in a courtroom situation. Lawyers or lawyers or their clients may rely to some extent to get a range of value from a CMA, but if that is being presented to the court, it's not going to come in as evidence as opposed to an appraisal report conducted by a licensed appraiser.
Well, it certainly wouldn't meet the criteria of an appraisal. And the other issue before the court might be, is the broker also a licensed appraiser? Because to give that type of testimony, you must be licensed, and you must have, before giving testimony, prepared an appraisal or met the minimum requirements of an appraisal.
That's right. And the statute requires that
Yeah.
there be a licensed appraiser. If that testimony is going to be offered as an expert opinion, that it be done by a licensed appraiser, not a real estate broker or salesperson.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, some of the strategies that we use in terms of settlement are to obtain a value of the property for discussion purposes and perhaps offset it against other assets, or determine what's going to happen to the property. And are you available to assist the attorneys in that process to determine on an ongoing basis perhaps what a solution, an effective solution might be?
We are, and we have done that. We've done it in other cases, such as tax appeals, eminent domain, where the parties are bogged down, with the value. We have helped to negotiate through that process. Sure.
Good, good. And I know from my experience in dealing with these issues that generally how you come into a case is assume one party or attorney could retain you to do an appraisal, correct?
That's correct.
And we're talking divorce situations here. The attorneys could agree that you be the selected expert to do the appraisal, or a court could appoint you to do the appraisal. Have you been court appointed?
Oh yeah, we've worked under all three of those, and actually, I guess about a third, and a third. A lot of times we'll get an order from the court, go out and appraise this home. Sometimes we'll get a call from an attorney who represents one of the spouses. Sometimes we'll get a call from an attorney and said, we've agreed to retain an appraiser, and you're one of the guys on our list. So,
in this economy too, I guess cost is always an issue. And I know it can vary depending on the complexities involved in an appraisal, but let's just take what I would call a typical, and I know there is no typical home, but let's just say a residence with the usual amenities. Is there a range of cost that an appraisal, such as you would perform, would involve so that persons would know what to expect?
Well, depending, as you say, on the complexity of the real estate, I would think that a narrative report, a court-worthy narrative report, would probably start somewhere between $500 and $700 and go up from there.
Okay. And then if you were called upon to testify, of course, then that would be something else.
Yes,
okay.
that would.
But the good news is that the statistics show us that most of these cases settle and do not go to trial. So the use of your appraisal report is a very effective tool in settling these cases, not just for going to court. And I would urge anybody who's going through the divorce process to obtain the services of a licensed real estate appraiser to determine the value of their property, whether for offset purposes against other assets or if they want to keep that property or whatever they intend to do with it, because you have to have a fixed point to rely on, and I would not recommend you rely on a comparative market analysis to do that, because for the reasons Rick said, and the fact that it's a moving target, a licensed real estate appraiser is available to update that report as necessary. Well, Rick, thank you very much.
Okay,
it's been
thank
very
you, John.
informative to me, and I appreciate you stopping by.
My pleasure.
Thank you.